figure out how.
Okay. Yeah. Hope this network works pretty well. Okay. So it's 6 p.m. on the dot already. I'd like to welcome everyone to this webinar, the first of its kind, actually, and we're more than glad to have everyone on board. I can see that quite a number of persons are joining in already. So Toluwabori, you're welcome. TK Debbie, I can see Olabi Olu, you're welcome. And whilst I welcome every other person in as they turn in, I want to say my name is Dixon, and I honestly, especially welcome each and every one of you to this webinar. I look forward to a fruitful time, and I'll do as much as possible to keep to time so that we can get the best and the best moments we can possibly have from this engagement. So you are all welcome. So the theme for this webinar is Study Abroad the Right Way. For the most part, pretty much aware as much as every one of us that there is a whole lot of sojourning in that sense where there's a mass exodus of people from different countries going to other foreign nations to go study. We're going to be engaging with folks who have gone in that direction. We're going to be hearing what their experiences have been. To a large extent, this conversation will be from their personal experiences. And we hope that it will go further to shape the minds of those who are still interested in going, because I think it's safe to say and right to say that there is an abuse of the opportunity this brings. And if the minds of many are not set aright, I think they wouldn't get the most out of the experience entirely. So that is what this engagement is about. And to do justice to this conversation is Simisola Smith and Louis Adekola. They would introduce themselves when we begin fully. And I want to believe that everyone is much more open to have a fruitful time here. So, Simi, thank you sincerely for making this time out to join us. Same as with Louis. I'll give you a go ahead, Simi, to introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, guys at Narrowhill, for having me this wonderful Friday evening.
Yeah.
You can't see me, but I have my leg up on a stool. Because it's meant to be a Friday evening and people are meant to be off work relaxing. So just to reiterate to the audience that it's nothing too serious, right? I'm here with a kaftan and chilled, so hopefully this is going to be an engaging conversation. So I'm Simisola Smith. I am currently the Associate Director for West Africa at Grok Global Services. I wouldn't go into so much detail because of the audience that I am speaking to, but it's still within the international education space. The simplest way to say who Grok is we are an HR company for international institutions. So that's just a summary. So I guess I would go into more detail once we have this conversation, just to give the chance for the guys at Narrowhill to actually throw questions to us as the panelists. So let me not, say too much and over introduce myself, then it gets boring. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again, Simi. You've always been an amazing person from our contacts, and I am so glad to have you here.
Makes me
On
blush
to
now.
Louis. Blush, please. You're deserving of it. So, Louis, please, let's have you introduce yourself. It's so nice to have you here again. Thank you for turning in.
Yeah, thank you very much can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what just happened. Again, just in the light of keeping things as chill as possible. I joined this call with my laptop, and then I was trying to figure out how to get the right lighting because I traveled to a new city and I'm just settling into the hotel. And the lighting facing me is not really good. It's a bit better at the back. So like you probably wouldn't see me. And I was struggling to do, you see, I left the call at a point and I came back and because I was like, what is going on? Can you believe I'm actually on this call with my laptop and I'm using my phone camera? Now, I just figured out that that was
You
possible,
can
and then I had to quickly do that. So, well, thank you, Narrowhill, for having me here and for allowing me to have an experience with technology. Um,
Technology.
Technology. All right. So, well, it's a pleasure to be here, and my friend Simisola Smith has introduced herself earlier. My name is Louis Adekola, or if you want the full form, it would be Prince Louis Omolayo Adekola, which is the one I kind of prefer. Um, I do wear a couple of hats. I work as the regional officer for West Africa at the University of Sussex in the UK. I also am CEO at Advantage Africa, so I work with African universities in terms of partnerships and advancement. But I also run La Prince Consult, organizers of Time Africa Summit and Awards, and I'm a podcaster, a couple of other things. So yeah, but for today, we'll just take me as an international education expert.
Louis, I feel like this is an opening attempt for me to start wearing a hat as a podcaster. It's my first.
Maybe you should.
Okay, so thank you sincerely for joining in again. That's to Louis and Smith Simisola. You're welcome. I really do look forward to an amazing time on this conversation. So, like we earlier mentioned, it's likely going to be a pull off of your experiences as international students at varied times, because we have in this audience a number of folks who would just be having these experiences, and it should be the case that they'd be leveraging on the experiences of folks who have gone ahead of them to make the best of the experience whilst they're at it. So I would want to presume that before going on to study, I'm starting off with Semisola, that you possibly have had um, to travel to sort of like one of these nations, and I would want to get what your first experience was like as maybe an international student. It might not be like that of so many persons that might be arriving there new, but what was it like coming off as a student?
So I would say my first experience was at the age of 16, thereabout. And it wasn't great, I wouldn't lie. And I guess that's because I was like, I wouldn't say a shielded child. So I didn't attend boarding school. I was a homebody, sort of, always at home and all of that. So my first experience was in college, actually, where I did my foundation in medicine in the UK, and it was in a private school in the UK. So I was in boarding school, so I struggled slightly with detachment. And because it was a small private boarding school, everyone was sort of, to themselves. I think I was actually the only Nigerian, or maybe the only Nigerian girl in my cohorts, but in particular in the foundation of medicine, there were, I think, one or two, three Nigerians in maybe the business side and the other sides of the foundation, but in my particular cohort. So it was a bit of a culture shock for me. Um, then rather than me, following, because I was kind of used to the UK because I'd been going maybe younger and all of that. I now went to Czech Republic to start my medical degree of all things at the age of 17. Czech Republic, like people now talk about Czech Republic as a nice tourist destination, blah, blah, blah. definitely at the time, just to put in, timestamps, they'll say early 2000s, so you don't guess my age. Czech Republic wasn't Czech Republic wasn't the Czech Republic we know sort of now. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
from one culture shock to the other culture shock. And yeah, before I decided to return back to the UK to pursue a pre-med program, and which is where my journey really started. Failed woefully in my first semester, and I'm being honest, failed woefully in my first semester of my first year, because I didn't study, right? I didn't study. Again, I faced a lot of, oh, I miss home. I was too engrossed with, this place, I'm tired. What's going on? And I studied in London, which is, the capital city, and I wasn't used to even though I was a Lagosian, I wasn't really used to everything, commuting from school and everything. But to be honest, how do we say in Nigeria, I had to borrow myself brain because I was a self-funded student at the time, right? Under my undergrad degree. So fast forward, I survived that. Eventually graduated with a 2-1. Um, but I like to say to people in terms of icebreakers that I am, in fact, a dropout medical school student, but everything worked out well. I didn't disgrace my ancestors. We'll probably get into more details of how my career, now in international education really kickstarted during my degree program, because I'm sure we're going to touch on, utilizing your time abroad and all that. So definitely speak to that. But self-funded student undergrad and my success in academia and my outside life eventually got me, partially funded scholarship from the Lagos State government for my master's degree, which was also meant to be a medical program, but I changed it. We'll get to that later.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You've touched on a number of things, and I know that this space will give us such opportunity to expound on them. Thank you. I'll pass it to Louis. Louis, what was your first venture like?
My first venture.
Yeah.
Well, I've only done one course abroad, so that's like my first and the only one.
Okay.
So I've only done my master's abroad. I did a master's degree in international education and development at the University of Sussex. And for me, it was very different because I went when I was very old. Um, it's a very different experience from me, myself and Simi. And I think it's good the way you've also brought the two of us to create that balance. While she went as a young person, a teenager, for foundation, I only went for a master's. I was in my late 20s at the time, literally turned 30 when I was studying my master's program anyway. Um, and for me, it was really good because I was very prepared. I was very prepared for it. I knew the course I wanted to study. I'd found the course. Let me bust your bubble. I'd found the course 6 years before I actually studied it. So I found the course when I was working as a student counselor. And then this is because I studied for my first degree, educational management in a Nigerian university. And I wasn't very passionate about education when I started the course, but along the line I went on my first teaching practice, fell in love with it, and after then I continued creating an NGO. So I needed a course that sort of brings my background in the field of education with my interest and passion for development, right? So that was how I found that course at the University of Sussex. And I'm like, okay, that course, I have to do it, you know? So the fact that I found it a long time before I eventually did it I'd done a lot of research, and always checking, if there was no lecturer, if there was a Nigerian lecturer, if there was any seminar that I could join, I would order prospectuses, I would digest it. It took me time, to get to that point. But so by the time I went, the experience was actually very good because I was prepared for it. And again, I was also a funded student, which is also very different from Simi's story. I actually won the Chevening scholarship, right? So I was a funded student, all my tuition, flight, everything was covered by the government. And so that's also, like I always say, it comes with a bit of pressure, even though when we arrive, or when we're going and when we arrive in the UK, they will tell us that, oh, you're not, we don't expect you to make a distinction. We want you to have a great experience, travel and all sorts. So everybody leaves that place like, yeah, I'm going to have fun. But
Yeah.
somehow you're going to the classroom, you're thinking, because your class, okay, you must be like the best in your country to get this award. So that, of doing well. And just like Simi said, I I wouldn't say I failed, like in the context of failing, but I didn't do well in the first results that I checked. But I had to sit up and, eventually every other word after that was great, because I had to constantly remind myself that I must not disgrace my generation and my ancestors, so I needed to ensure that I do well. And thankfully I did, and I finished with a distinction. So for me, it was a really good experience. And I didn't just focus on study. I also, explored, I traveled, I did all sorts. And yeah, maybe we'll get back to that as
Thank you.
well.
Thank you so much. If there is anything I'm super in tune with, it is the idea of vulnerability. And it is the case that being vulnerable has a way of giving power to others for them to live their own lives. And I've seen that played out in the conversation so far, and I'm sincerely grateful. So it's not like we're coming off to do something sort of like cliche. So thank you so much. Um, just to ask, was there anything, of course there should be, what was the culture shock like for, let me start off with Simi. What was, no, let me start from Louis. Let me start from Louis because Simi had it all from when she was much younger. Louis, what was the culture shock like when you went in for your study?
Yeah, in terms of culture shock, right?
Yeah.
I think for me it was majorly the weather, right? I don't know if that's part of it, but that was something that I found really shocking.
Okay.
Because prior to that, I traveled, I of course, if you know the world of, development, it means that somehow you get to travel. I traveled before going to study at Sussex, I'd probably gone to like 15 countries or something, So I hadn't spent a long time, in one place to experience the changes in seasons,
Yeah.
right? So for me, it was that, and then you see some people and you're like, oh, this person is so cool. Their skin is so nice. Like, how you see some people and like this person have lived abroad. They have pink lips, they have this, their skin is so nice, and all that. I got to the UK and I had the worst breakout of my life. You know, I had my skin was so black that I was like, am I sick?
Oh,
Do you
wow.
get like it was really bad. So that was one. So the experience of the weather and how the weather affects, us in ways that we don't anticipate, was one thing. Like the skin. I tend to have skin. I have to do a different skin
Routine.
routine when I'm abroad than when I'm in Nigeria. And that's a conscious that I have. Like when I'm abroad, I have to use more oil than I would use moisturizers in Nigeria, which is weird. And I think it's just, what they say about like pH level and all of that, humidity and all that. That's just my own case. It might not be for some people, it might be the other way. They might have to use oil more in Nigeria. But for me, when I'm abroad, my skin gets scaly and sometimes, and can be in some particular seasons. Another one was prior to going abroad, I'd never experienced vitamin D deficiency, which is now health, right? And I experienced that in my first few months abroad, So, and it took time to actually discover what the issue was. I was doing series of tests and all of that. But I mean, we're in Nigeria. Actually, you get vitamin D from nature, and I got there, and I mean, till now, I still, even in Nigeria, I still put myself sometimes on supplements, on vitamin D supplement, because I'm so scared of that thing. It's like the worst, it's like the mental shock that I've had in my life, because the way it works is like it just attacks any part of your body, but it gets to a point that you feel like your bones, your leg cannot carry you anymore. So I don't want to do that. Another thing is also how you interact with people, is just really understanding the differences in how people would engage with you. Um, you know, Simi would relate with this. When you're abroad, there's a way you will do with your brothers and sisters, like brothers and sisters, like people of the same or similar skin tone. Like you see them on the street, and somehow you will bow, like you would smile. That's something that also you don't learn, you just experience it, because how you just see someone walking past you in London, and because you are like black and black, they wave, they might not wave, but they just bow. Some people don't do it, to be honest, but it's one of those things. But also how people respond to um pleasantries or greetings. These are some of the things, some here, you can greet someone and play with them and touch them, but there you have to be careful, because you know things like that can be read another way. Let me close out with this quote, which can mean a lot of things around, how we interact with one another. There was a time that I went to buy something at the stores, and I was at the bus stop waiting for the bus. And then there was an old man who was also coming from another store, and he fell. He fell down, like his stuff were on the ground, and then he was bleeding, right? It really was a nasty fall, and he was bleeding. And somehow my African nature, my mommy would say, "Oh, like I was going there with like, let me go and help him up and all of that. And then my friend just dragged me back. I said, Alaye, come back here before they go and say you that killed man. you know, the way it works in that kind of system, here now, someone, has an issue, or maybe they fell or had an accident, you have to, you want to go and rush and help them sit up and all that. There, if you don't have medical training, you shouldn't actually do that, because you don't know that person's medical condition. You don't know, if you go and lift them in one way, you break a certain bone, and something happens from there. So there you learn to withdraw, even though your heart is pushing you, your brain will tell you to, you're like Simi said, you borrow yourself brain to reserve your so it's not like they're not caring. It's just that it's just the way it is, and I think I already said. So there are many things, but let me just stop there because of time.
And I wasn't expecting that last one. Thank you so much. Okay,
Yeah.
so I tossed the ball to Simi. I think you would have lots and lots to tell us about this.
Well, I think from just starting off from what Louis has said, with regards the community and how people respond to certain scenarios, but I also wanted to point out to something very important that he mentioned. He said a friend pulled him, right? And I want to start off on that note, in as much as people have the idea, we're all speaking from I guess from the UK point of view, but even speaking to friends who have studied maybe in other countries as well,
Yeah.
it could be a bit of, you might feel a bit alienated, right? You might feel like you're a bit secluded because people think that seclusion is an act of respect. So you are not prying into another person's business. Unlike locally in Nigeria, and I guess not only Nigeria, I'll say even Africa and similar countries that have similar ideologies as us, the Middle East, even India, that have family cultural principles that are very similar. Um, Westerners just operate on a different wavelength, right? But what I wanted to point out is that's why it's important to have your own network of friends, right? I think for me, that's one of the mistakes I made, or something that I wasn't really focusing on. And I guess that's from the lens of someone studying abroad with a more mature mentality. Definitely, when I went back for my master's, I was a whole, different human. I'll say maybe from the end of my undergrad, because I had some things in the middle, I started engaging more in my final year. Just imagine, right? Because in my first 2 years, it was like study, study, study. Everybody knew me in the library. Like I was the one that, killed whomever wrote the books of the books. People assumed, because I was always studying with the medics. So I did biomedical sciences eventually in my undergrad. So our courses were very similar. And I used to read like them, be like them. We used to sleep in the library. It was not healthy, by the way. I'm not encouraging anybody to be that person. It wasn't healthy. I used to sleep in the chaplaincy, God bless them, just in one corner there, just because I didn't want to commute back home. Again, I think this is when you need to reflect on, do I want a university that I can be on an actual campus, so everything is in close proximity? I'm glad that I actually, went through the tides and eventually did well. But I have parents who maybe speak to me before they have their kids maybe choose a university abroad. And I always have to tell them that you need to understand the strengths of your children. So if they are not very independent, if you've not trained them to be that way, or they are not used to navigating waters, my mom probably didn't think of all those things. Thankfully, I found a way, because that could have just been sideways. You hear a lot of kids who drop out from school at that age because they just couldn't cope. They went back to Nigeria, not because, funding wasn't a problem. They were probably smart, but the culture shock was just too much for them. People weren't speaking to them. They weren't making so many friends, right? You need to participate in activities. There are reasons for things like Freshers Week. I don't know how many people on this call on the UG sort of perspective. I feel this is very important because when you're older, like I said, in my master's, I was a whole different person. I knew how to network. I knew how to speak to people. I'd already grown, but I feel younger people in a different environment, you might feel slightly, not very confident unless you're just naturally so. And that could work for you the other way around. So, like I said, I feel like I should have done more with engaging earlier on. I feel that would have definitely helped me with regards, the social skills that I eventually learned later. I think I was very awkward in my first 2 years of university. People see me and think, I think you're quite confident. I think you speak quite well. No, I was very socially awkward, right? I didn't even know until when someone pointed out that, do you realize that your head is always down? Like you don't lift your head up. Like I was always like this, and the difference abroad is lecturers want you to speak out. Lecturers want you to challenge them, right? Or like maybe I'll say with from friends who have studied in Nigeria, maybe Louis can confirm this. You don't question your lecturer, sir or ma. You can't, you ain't gonna do that in the classroom, right? Maybe now things are different. I want to believe that new generation lecturers really want that level of engagement, but definitely during that time, you're not going to be telling your lecturer. So why do you think it's that way? So for me, I had to learn to speak out because my quietness was seen as negative. What is she always on about? Like even when I outgrew certain things, I eventually became vice president of my students union, which was good, right? I was coming out of my box, and it was the first time they actually had an international student, African, whatever. So my manifesto was really, representing the minority from the university I also went to that didn't really have a lot of Africans attend. But when I got they call it 360 review. So they review you what you've been doing in the first 6 months of your tenure. And a lot of the people were saying in meetings, Simi seems detached. It was an honest feedback. Simi is smart. Simi, when she speaks, but Simi seems detached. Because guess what? I'm in that meeting and I'm on my iPad, right? Because my social skills were not great. So I picked up the fact that my social skills weren't great, thinking that I'm allowing people to speak in the room. But they saw it as disrespect, that why are you being distracted when we're speaking? So things like that, I started to pick up in my, level of engagement. Of course, I had situations that I, somehow entered trouble. I wouldn't go into that. But I got myself out of those things. I feel like I can have a 101 on study abroad as a teenager. All the everything inside it, from my mom even saying that, go out more, to actually literally taking those words as go out more and doing asheju in the going out. Asheju, if people that are not Yoruba, means I too know. IDK, ITK, you did too much. Then from doing too much to coming back, you understand, forming serious student. So I've had my moments, but now I hope there is a sort of balance. So I think the thing you need to learn is balancing. You need to balance your social skills, your academics, your networking, also utilizing whatever the university has on board. I know it might sound so cliche. Oh, engage with the career service, engage with the Afro-Caribbean Society. Please engage. You don't know who will save you. You don't know where your next reference will come from. You don't know when your next opportunity will really come out from. Do you understand? There are people that I still engage with till date. Till date. By the way, my level of engagement in my undergraduate, although late, but I think very timely, is what actually kickstarted my career eventually in international education, from student ambassadorship to VP of the Students' Union to eventually working for my university in the marketing team eventually. And that was after some years of getting experience in another UK school. My university thought it worthy that I could then work with them. So it didn't just happen overnight, right? So that's, my sort of story.
Thank you so much. That was rich, and that's touching quite a number of other questions that would have come up in this conversation. I'd like to ask Louis, much as I know that you were an adult at the time you studied, did you at any point feel homesick? Because it could be thought of as something that is native to younger folks, but I want to believe that older folks suffer same. Yeah, so and how were you able to manage that? Maybe mental wellness and all of that?
If you know me very well, you would already know the answer to that question. Because me, I'm Ibile. So I was homesick all the time. I'm not even going to lie. There is something they call there is this stage, or there are stages in the experience of an international student. I don't know if Simi went through that stage as well. There is that stage, I might not get all of it clearly correctly. The first is the honeymoon phase, which is that phase of I just got abroad. Everything is cool. This thing is better than my country. Oh, I have to press button before I cross road. Oh, zebra crossing. Oh, this, that honeymoon period. Then there is now that phase of confusion that, so why am I here? There's it might take some months, it might take some years, like depending. But that confusion phase comes there, and then there is that there's one stage before the acceptance stage, right? I can't remember what that phase is, but if anybody can find, if I can't find it, I'll send it to you. But it's a very interesting thing because that's like the journey. Like when you first get abroad, there's that fun of like, yes, especially when you are younger, like, yes, I'm now in control. I have my own freedom, all those kind of things. Then can you hear me? I have
Yes.
my own freedom and all that. And then you now begin to, even by the time the studies now becomes a bit overwhelming, and you have to juggle that with ensuring that you stay in touch with and remember, honeymoon period, when you've just left the home, they will be calling you every day to be sure that you are okay. After they have confirmed that you are okay, they assume that you are consistently okay. So they might not be calling you every day. And then you're now like, why are they not calling me again? Do I not matter to them again? All those kind of things begins to come. Then for some of us that went with a full bag of eja gbigbe a day, you have consumed it. You're now like, where will I get this thing from now? It's a lot of things, that from in my own experience that really added to, being homesick. But the major one for me, which was very peculiar, was I studied into the pandemic. I studied into the pandemic. I started my master's in 2019, and by 2020 we were in lockdown in the
Yeah.
UK, and there was that uncertainty, of whether the world was going to survive, and there was all that thought of, will I ever come back home? Will they ever open border? Will I see my friends again? Will I see my family again? Will I lose anybody? God forbid. All those kind of things, were really troubling me. But I think for me, so there are a couple of things that I actually did that really helped me, which was the second part of the question you asked. Um, the first is that acceptance. I was talking about the acceptance phase,
Yeah.
right? It was me accepting that that is the current reality. Number one, the first reality is I'm abroad. I'm not at home. I won't get all the things that I like to do. Like for me, no matter how much I've traveled, I don't like certain food. I don't eat shawarma, I don't, or wraps or whatever. I don't eat pizza. I don't eat burgers, anything. Give me poundo yam. If you cannot give me pounded yam, I'll take it. You understand?
Yeah.
But those kind of things, and that was my experience. But I got to a point, I'm like, I have to accept that I'm abroad. I won't get these things all the time. What else can I do? I've learned to cook with spinach and kale rather than ugu and this. That acceptance and adjustment to your new reality is very important. And we might be saying this, that, oh, is traveling abroad is the same thing with every phase in life. You move from, growing up in Ijebu-Ode, and you've moved to Lagos, or you grew up in Suleja, now you are in Calabar. You have to also adjust to new realities in places. You used to work in a bank, now you are a boat driver. These are new realities. You have to also adjust. So you accept that new reality, and then you adjust to it. Another thing that was very important is personally taking advantage of the situation. I talked about me making a distinction, but somehow I don't want to thank COVID, but I have to thank COVID for it, because hey, I don't know who is listening, but my mom does not used to sit in one place. I can travel everywhere. You understand? But because of COVID,
Yes.
that mom sat someplace, you know. So I was reading a lot, I was writing a lot, I was engrossed in my studies, and somehow I now realized that I unlocked a newer version of
Mm.
me, because there was lockdown. You understand? So I took advantage of that experience. Now, there are two things that I want to answer in one. You could get carried away with being engrossed in work and study, like Simi was saying that she wouldn't advise anybody to do that. You could really get engrossed that you are losing your mental health without even knowing,
Mm.
right? So you have to be intentional about balancing things. we talk about work-life balance, same as study life balance, same as everything, you know. One of the things that I did was really intentional about my communities. There were some people that I had to call every time. Sometimes people wonder why myself and my best friend are so close. Like, we're so close because all through that time we made it a point of duty, not only because of me, but also because of him. We were talking every day, every day. Do you understand? Like, I may not be talking to my mom or my siblings every day, but my best friend, I was talking to him every day just to ensure that he was fine, I was fine, and everything. Just chatting about things and all that. So building that community, and community is not only the people that you see on a daily basis. You know, that, for example, my family, my siblings, my friends at home were my community, because I could talk about certain things with them that I could not talk to the people that I've just newly met. You know, I could throw banters about, secondary school days. You know, you could be talking with your friend in Nigeria, and what you guys would talk about for 1 hour was how your necks were long at a point in your life. And you talk about it and talk about it and talk about it for a long time. You understand? That is you relieving stress. So that was one thing, staying in touch with family, staying in touch with friends. I also reconnected with some certain friends. There's some people that, when they travel abroad is when they break all ties. For me, it wasn't the reality. There were some people that I had to let go. I let them go, because if you're not really going to be if you're going to drag me back at some point, I'm going to let you go, right? There are some people that I had to let go. I let them go. But I also was intentional about reconnecting with some certain people. So some people that I haven't called, maybe again because of the fear of COVID, I didn't want to go to everyone or whatever, and then they will now say, this person, you were close to him, you didn't call him again, you didn't talk to. I called them. I said, I've done my own. God, I've done my own. Whatever COVID wants to do. So, and apart from that, I also built a community where I was living. Community of my classmates, of my schoolmates, of my fellow scholars. I built community. So, like the one we did with Nigerian scholars in the UK at that time, we were organizing weekly webinars just to throw banters, nothing serious, not about academics, just playing, and you'll be amazed at how that can really help you balance, your head, without even knowing. Just the same way, stressing over job and work and studies and new reality can stress you out, same as how your community can help you balance. The other thing I wanted to say is that apart from the fact that you've moved abroad, there is also
Understand.
the seasons change. I'll give an example of the UK, or like in Nigeria, Ghana, and all that. We know when when it dawns and when it dusks. It dawns around like 6, 7 in the morning, or like past like 6 a.m. anyway, like 7 before 7, and then it dusks around 7 as well. So like 12 hours of daylight. But in the UK and in many other countries, especially when there are countries with the 4 seasons, you would see that in summer it dawns earlier in the day, sometimes as early as 4 a.m. There is daylight. There might not be sunlight, but there is daylight, right? As early as 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and then it doesn't dusk. It doesn't get dark until like 10 p.m., 11 p.m. So people tend to overwork at that time. They overwork and work, and then they, in the sense of enjoying and going out and doing that, people tend to overwork themselves, which can also affect your brain. But the challenge with that particular weather is not as massive as the alternate of that, which is in winter. Winter is the opposite of that, because it dawns around 10 a.m. It gets dawn around 10 a.m., sometimes before 11, and then it dusks around 4 p.m. and sometimes 5 a.m., 5 p.m. So that means you have about 5 hours of daylight or 6 hours of daylight. And the more time you spend in darkness, the more you overwhelm your brain. Your brain begins to try to adjust, but it's dark. So and that's why you see people now using sad lamps, all those kind of things. So I think that's one thing to also bear in mind in terms of culture shock. I was talking about weather earlier, so that's another thing that you need to prepare for yourself for. You have to be conscious of managing how much work you do in summer, so that you don't overwork work yourself and break down. And some people will say, oh, there is sun, it's like Nigeria sun. Many times it's not like Nigerian sun. Let's just be very realistic with ourselves. Now, if I'm planning, my friends know, if I'm planning my trip to the UK, I don't go in summer, because I don't, for me personally, and it might just be my own personal body composition, I fall sick in summer because the sun sometimes gets too much for me. That's me. Do you understand? So I think it's also very important. And then in winter, you also have to consciously train yourself to take walks, to do things that you normally not do. Like how many of us in Nigeria takes walks in Surulere, being in Ikorodu? You have to consciously train yourself to take walks, so that you can have some fresh air into your system. You can enjoy the daylight when it exists. But also, if there are things, apparatus that you need to buy, like the sad lamps, if you need to put yourself in a supplement, also do those kind of things. So those are lifestyle changes that you also need to adapt to. Let me stop here.
Thank you so much. Taking a leap off of what you said, Louis, I'd like to quickly ask Simi, because I know that with folks who go in, there is a lot of thoughts on their mind when they are going to study abroad, whether the UK, Canada, or the US. What would you like to let them know about balancing life and study?
First things first, and this is from also not only from the lens of an international student, but someone who advises international students as well. What each country says about part-time studies is accurate, but do not assume that those part-time studies will pay for any tuition fee deficit. And I think this is where people put themselves under extreme pressure.
Yeah.
And whatever they decide to want to achieve within that time frame, they might not end up achieving it, right, because of that assumption. And it's heartbreaking to see people, because to be honest, a lot of people sacrifice so much to leave their respective countries. Like, parents sell things, even adults, leave jobs to lucrative, sell lands, amongst other things. Do you understand? I'm talking even from a time when the currency devaluation wasn't even as bad as this, right? So you need to be realistic with your expectations. You need to be realistic with your ROIs, which is your return on investment. So you're not putting yourself in a deficit, in the sense that you have sacrifice so much, but either way, whether you go back or you go forward, you are not moving at all, right? So there's no question of even going back to your home country, because you've sacrificed so much. Everybody has known that. I have jackpot. Sorry, I'm too natural at this. So I let me not put lingo. I apologize. It's not like my Yoruba is great. I'm talking as if, oh, I speak of the Yoruba and the what is zero. Right. So if you're even going forward as well, you're equally not moving because you sold yourself a lie. Let's be realistic with budgeting. Budgeting can be achieved, right? Realistically. And that could be like Louis amazingly with, the full scholarships amongst other things. For me, again, I'll try and word this and manage this very well. As a self-funded student, it's not like I had everything available to me as well, right? Because people can easily fall under the impression of, what do they call these kids? Trust fund baby. No, I wasn't a trust fund baby, right? Um, my father died at the age of 8, so it was left, and imagine those many years, and my mom had to, look into those resources to send. Not only me, I'm the last of 4 kids, right? And all of us at some point studied in the UK. So it's about management as well. So there could be resources available, but how you manage it. So in the UK, I wasn't living the life, no fast cars going on there, no living in high-rise building. No, I wasn't living the life. I was living in one corridor, in one place, in one room, just to go by, honestly speaking, because that was not the point. The point was school fees, right? The point was school fees. And my mom's intention was that during school time, I wouldn't work so I could focus on school. That was the sacrifice. The sacrifice was buying budget meals, not eating in restaurants every day like you are a chief. No. Enter certain supermarkets. In the UK, there are value-added products, right, Louis? Like value. Sticking to my value, making sure that, each coin was being accounted for. Dude, I will come with braids from Nigeria on holiday, and that could be on my head. I wouldn't say for how long, but just imagine, right? Because nobody's gonna spend that amount of money doing hair. I am being honest, right? Because what happens is sometimes when you make those decisions, people around you can pressurize you to live a certain lifestyle that you were not brought up to live when you left your home country. You have to be realistic, right? I'm still very good friends with this particular person, but in my first day, Dr. Stephanie, she's now a doctor because from biomed she went to medical school, and I'll say her name because we're still very good friends. No, those ones were our Gucci babies, right? But we had mutual respect. Do you understand? We knew I would tell her how beautiful she looked. I would admire how she looked, but I'm not gonna go and spend my pocket money to buy it. Do you understand? I would shop in Primark and be contented. You have to be contented with yourself, right? You have to be contented because even now as professionals, I really love, Louis did this podcast recently about, etiquette amongst other things. And that really spoke to me when professionals were even saying amongst ourselves, I don't wear branded products. I mean, people might actually sit down and look at me head to toe. People might not have noticed. I don't wear branded products just because I like unique stuff. In the UK, I used to, I'm not ashamed to say it, I used to shop in thrift stores. I used to shop in thrift
Charity
stores.
stores.
Yeah, because they have very antique, unique sort of things, in my opinion. And I'll get it for like a ridiculous amount of money from the original owner. God forbid that the original owner is dead, but oh well, God bless their souls. But yeah, we move. Do you understand? But that is the reality. Some people will be like, they cannot catch me here, they cannot catch me here. All of that is not relevant in the grand scheme of life. Like I said, I am still friends with someone who I think comes from a very wealthy background. But my level of engagement is you have to come from a place of, look, let them respect where you're also coming from. You understand? You're not coming in the defense of pride. You're just coming with embracing where you're coming from. So you're not putting yourself on undue, unnecessary pressure. If they're not accepting you for who you are, then they are not your friends and should not be welcome to your circle. It is simple as that. Do you understand? Because I've seen it over time and time again. Young people falling prey to this, right? Even older people trying to form a life. This is my vulnerability. This is me. This, even up to now, it still feeds within me the way I operate my mindset. Fine, maybe because I can do one or two things, I might spoil myself, but it's really not the end of the world, right? Do not put undue pressure on yourself. The naira to the pound, they are not mates at the moment. Let nobody choke you. Please, let nobody press your neck. It's not allowed.
Thank you so much. And truth be told, there's a lot of pressure out there. Because of the nature of movement, quite a number of people go, and I can imagine that there's a pressure of wanting to put up a front that, we're living the life here with all the promoters and all of that online. So that's quite a necessary conversation to have. Louis, I want you to speak to funding. much as I know the provision that came about for you, you're also by virtue of your engagement now aware of what other people would have to go through to get funds to sponsor their academic pursuits. I'd like you to take a moment to speak to that. And it's the case that people come like, hello, I'm looking for scholarship. And you'd have to take the time to explain to them that this is how it works. And for some of them, you need to, it's like robbing a bank, obviously, for you to, go on this journey. Kindly take some moment to speak to that, please.
Thank you very much for that question. And we are, I mean, the focus of this conversation is on studying abroad the right way. And I think that one of the things that we're trying to do is trying to be as realistic as possible. Um, Thankfully, we're not here to just market, a program or a course or an institution, but really to get people to know the right things to do. And I'll just pick it back to what Simi was saying about return on investment. Being realistic with yourself. She said that very rightly. Be realistic with yourself, be realistic with your return on investment. But one of the things that I mentioned earlier was about intentionality. Intentionality doesn't start when you've gotten abroad, is before you go abroad. I think that many people are not very realistic with themselves when they are planning to study abroad. And so they make the worst mistakes and spend many years trying to correct it. I don't know if that makes sense. So, and some of this are avoidable, to be very honest. There are some people that, the first mistake they would make is majorly around following the bandwagon. The question is not the one that troubles me most is not even the calls that we get or people that come to our desks and say they want scholarship. Because I got scholarship and anybody could want scholarship. It doesn't mean that everybody will get scholarship anyway. You understand? All you can do is you can try. You can try. You can get some discount. You can get full scholarship, but what I've realized in life is that anybody can get scholarship. There are many different types of scholarships, right? So that's not even for me. That's not the major problem. The major problem is when someone comes to me and they're asking me for a course that I know is completely useless to them. I don't know their future. I'm not God, right? But there are some times that you can have a conversation with someone, you know the course they've done, you ask them about their passions and interests. And you as a counselor can advise them in a certain direction, but they will come to you hell bent on wanting to do a certain course. Why? Because so person has done it, and that person is now living in America. What that person is doing in America, they don't know. But that person has gone to study this course in America, and the person is in America. That's all that matters. I understand that many people, their mind is really around just going abroad. It's great. Traveling abroad is great. But I think when you travel to a certain point, you just realize that sometimes, and I'll say it in a way that people who doesn't speak Yoruba, good Yoruba, can understand what I'm saying. Is sometimes what you're looking for in Sokoto is inside your Sokoto, which is your pants. There's a better way to say that, you know. But the truth is that sometimes people need to look within, and see, have I exhausted my capacity here? Is this the right time for me to go? Is this course what I should be doing? And that's why can you hear me? Okay. And
Yes.
that's why I really enjoyed the scholarship because the scholarship I got, you would so there are 4 essays that you need to write. What the first one is on leadership, the second one is on networking, The third one is on study abroad, study in the UK, and the fourth one is career prospects. And I've been privileged to sit on interview panels, and while many people, I mean, all the essays are great, and sometimes, just the way it is in any panel, there are some things that piques your interest. For me, I'm always keen on hearing what people would say, not only in the study abroad, because that's very easy. You can go and read about study abroad. Some people know about, certain countries. It doesn't mean that they have what it takes to really utilize that scholarship. But I'm really keen on especially networking, how networking impacts on your leadership skill, but more importantly, on the career prospects. How does the work you've done in the past connect to what you want to study now? How does it influence or impact on the future that you want for yourself? Many of us in this part of the world, we don't take the time to think ahead of time, to think about our future and then plot a path. See, paths and goals and things can change. It's okay for them to change. Nothing is cast in stone, but there has to be a sense of direction. When someone comes to me and they don't have a course, and then some people will come to you and say, I want to study a course, and like, I want to study abroad. And you're like, what course? This is PGO, and like any course is not a course. There has to be some sense of direction. Even if you want to move from sociology to business, if you want to move from engineering to education, those are possible. But there has to be justification for that movement. There has to be a sense of direction before you can really take advantage. I've digressed. Let me go back to the question around funding. It is a lot of money. And Simi said something earlier. She said that Naira and pounds, they are not age mates. And that's the truth. If you convert what it will cost you to study abroad to Naira, sometimes you will have palpitations. Do you understand? But if you look at it, if you can afford it, whether you can afford it, you and your family can afford it, or you can get additional funding, or people do GoFundMe to complete their fees, and you can do that. But you have looked at the ROI, as Simi said, and it's going to really, really change your life. Go for it. Okay? If you know that you can get a scholarship, go for it. And some people make the mistake by applying for the wrong scholarships. Some people that they struggle to enter 2-1 because you can now use 2-1 to apply for Commonwealth. They will spend all their time applying for Commonwealth. Meanwhile, they have an NGO, or they've made a change in happen in the company that they work, and they're not looking at scholarships like Chevening or MasterCard, So information is very important as well. Do you understand? But that intentionality on what course do I want to study? What university do I want to go to? What country do I want to go to? And very importantly, when should I go? Some people have gone abroad before the time they should go. I'm not God, oh, I'm just saying. You understand? And I'm not a pastor. I'm not saying that, oh, is not that. But there are some times that you are running a business and you need to spend a bit more time to stabilize that business before you go abroad for master's or PhD. Some people have closed down business that has the potential of growing very well in the next few years, just because they want to go and do social work and get a care work. I don't dispute care work. Care work is good. It has made a lot of difference in people's lives abroad. You understand? But some people close down business that has the potential of becoming multinationals because they just want to go abroad. And the realities are very different. If you see some people abroad, the only thing left with them is their iPhone that they have not completed the payment for. They are still paying £16 per month for it. And it's their iPhone that they will now use and snap picture that they will pepper you on Instagram and TikTok. You now go back home, you'll not be able to sleep in peace. Do you understand? So it's really understanding, when am I supposed to travel? When it is time. There is a quote that from a movie, and I'll just end with this one. that I found it has helped me in my life. It's from the movie called Facing the Giant, right? And it's a Christian film, and this film, there was a coach that, was struggling in his family, in his life, and was struggling to get the team to also win cups and everything. There's a pastor that goes to the school and prays on he was trying to preach to the student, but it wasn't going to work. And then he will go and pray on their lockers, so that when they touch it, they receive anointing and all of that. Well, whatever, if that happens. But he went one night and he was praying and he saw the coach and he was dejected and everything. And he said to him, and he asked him, that one was now venting and everything. And then he said this quote to him. He said, until God moves you, you have to stay right where he has planted you and blossom. The problem is that people have not allowed themselves to blossom in a particular place before they make the move. And there are some people that, whether they have not gotten the scholarship or they have not received the funding, they have not been able to raise the funds they need, they don't blossom where they are. And that's why you see some people, the moment they leave Nigeria, they are desperate to just stay there because they know that there is nothing back at home for me. The reality of life is that whether you're going to Canada to study or you are going to the US or the UK to study, your life must not be boxed in that country. You might be back in your country and be doing excellently. My friend Simi is a typical example. She spent a lot of money to study abroad from foundation to masters. She could easily say, I have to go and be working in Canada, but she's in Nigeria doing excellently. And by excellently, I'm not just talking about money, but also in terms of impact, in terms of value, and that is the thing about life. So you have to ensure that you do have said a lot of things, but ensure that you are intentional. You think about your return on investment. You are forward thinking, but you don't allow yourself to be desperate. When you are choosing a course, you don't join the bandwagon. When you are choosing a university or a country, but you allow yourself to choose something that helps you not only to live, to become the best of yourself, but to be able to create value when you are done studying that course.
Thank you so much, Louis and Simi. This has been an insightful conversation. I'm not gonna lie. Essentially, is that it speaks to the now and the future as well. And I think it gives opportunity for folks who are on this call to evaluate their standpoints when it comes to perspective with which they are looking forward to their study engagement abroad. There's been an increase in the concern for MRES, and Louis smiling. Yeah, Simi, I saw that face.
Thank God that question is not for me, it's for me. That's just what I'm thinking in my head.
Okay, so I'm just going to bring it innocently to this floor for both of you to speak to in a couple of minutes. I would also encourage for our participants to drop their question in the chat session. I'm certainly going to bring it to the fore whilst they speak to that. But yes, MRES, everybody is singing MRES now. What is it about? From maybe we don't have hindsight to look at it, but from where we are, what can you forecast in a sense as to what the future holds? We sort of like know that there's a God to this thing, that's GOAD, that steers people in that direction. But from a frantic point of view, what would you want to tell someone who is willing to hear you speak to them? Yeah.
Romeo spot. What?
Is that to me to start?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll throw it first to Simi, then you pass the baton to Louis.
I don't know why Louis would do that, because Louis is more student facing at the moment. Yeah. Okay. But what I'll say, with my current role, I don't maybe speak directly to students as much as I would love. But and this is even speaking to colleagues like Louis. I mean, there was a whole thing going on in our in-country group, right, Louis? And someone shared the news that UKVI is warning. Serious. In fact, is he begging? What's the word? That, agents should be coming down with selling the Emirates. Now, what I'll say is, honestly speaking, the Emirates, yes, and I know, and let's not even dilly-dally around. The majority, maybe to put it in percentage wise, I would say 70 to 80% of people who inquire about the Emirates are thinking of their dependents and how they can move their dependents abroad. Now, that is something that and with every rule, with everything that somehow spikes up migration figures, and that is, with the immigration policies with Canada, all those other extras, Australia. Every time a country brings up something that would spike up their numbers, it always comes with a rebuttal, which means that eventually there might be a bottleneck to this, right? Because I think what the UK might be studying at the moment is the level of completion of the MRES, right? They might not be able to bring up a policy until they can actually certify that people who are coming to study the MRES have ulterior motives. Maybe this is why we have not seen it being cancelled, or there's not been any policy against it. But believe you me, and this is what we saw with, I think there's a time the UK had this highly skilled immigrant sort of thing or something else. They had a couple of things that would encourage people to migrate. And when they saw that the level of completion on all those policies were not, positive, and they could even find some immigrants at some point, they canceled all of these things. Now, if genuinely, and it's okay because a number of people, backtracking to what my colleague said about, I returned back to Nigeria not because I was forced to, I decided. At that time, it seemed like a very, very stupid decision to other people. Again, did I know that my life would be like this or my pathway would be like that? I did have a job from the UK that I brought back to Nigeria. But let me tell you, I lost that job eventually. And I had to really sort out myself at some point. Do you understand? So even if at the back of your mind, you think, the MRES is a means to an end for you, no one is going to guilt you out of that thought. But please be able to put the work on it, like genuinely. MRESs are highly research focused. I have a pending PhD, and excuse my French, it's not because I am stupid and I cannot read for a PhD, but I am not ready for that. No, my brain cannot, honestly cannot, right? From my master's, I was meant to move to my PhD program. That was the conversation with Lagos State. But I had to put my hands up that, let me rest, please. Let us see how life, I need to survive. I need to be able to eat. This is what you're telling me to do PhD. I'm not ready. But that can be for someone else. Because PhDs are not a joke. I had a friend who from our master's degree together, Louis actually also got the Chevening scholarship, or was it Commonwealth? One of them to do a master's. She's from Cameroon, right? And she did a PhD like a year or two after. We were in therapy sessions together. Like we used to let her, she did her PhD in South Africa from the UK. I'm like, we used to sit down with her. We were four women in the group. One person is a top person in the UN. Like we're really telling her, breathe. It will come to an end soon. Breathe. Like she'll be telling us her experience. Like, is this how a PhD is? All of us were falling. Like we are not doing it. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. So please, it's not for the faint-hearted. And the MRES is just like if you're even going to go with dependent, like know that there is no time. Childcare in the UK is also extremely expensive. Do not frustrate yourself out of the process. Know that you have to study for it, to stay in it, and keep you, because if you're going to go with dependence, I want to assume that you are also selling things. You're living a whole life. Please, for the sake of, even if you're going as husband and wife, if it's for the sake of preserving your marriage, because that might be the reason why two of you will fight. Oh, I'm being honest. This is genuine. Because living a life in the UK, you have to be tough. Even without all those bills and everything, you have to be very, very rugged and tough, right? The rent will not pay itself. Your phone bills will not pay itself. So you have to know that one of you has to put in the sacrifice. So there has to be some level of sacrifice. And it's not just an ordinary master's. If you genuinely want to go for a master's, go for a taught master's, an MA or an MSc. For MRes, just know that it's not for the faint-hearted. It does require a very strong level of academic sacrifice.
Thank you. I think Simi, you've said this just perfectly, and I love the angle that you came in from, especially from nobody's going to guilt trip you or like tell you not to do um master in research, if that is what you want to do, and it give you the kind of direction or satisfaction that you want to get from your academic endeavor. So, but the other things that we need to pay attention to, which was what Simi was saying, is that you need to know what it requires before you go for it. You need to know what it requires, because even master's thoughts, and again, in the sense of being realistic, is not easy. Simi, Simi was saying it. Studying is not easy, especially because in a place like UK that is very intensive. So, and we're saying this not to discourage you from going abroad, but really to prepare you ahead of that, so that you not go there and say, but this person said he had distinction. How did you have distinction? Maybe me too, I'm in the UK. I denied myself of many things. Do you understand? So you need to know what it requires. And if you don't do well, those things that you think that you're going for, God forbid, it might be hard to get, because if you don't pass well, you will not be able to get your graduate visa. Do you understand? A lot of things are going to be tied to it. So Simi has perfectly said it. If you want to do MRes, if there is space, if they find a course for you, if you do everything that they're supposed to do, if you get it, it's fine, because at the end of the day, you are able to go and study. You are also able to, if the reason is because of your family, you're able to do it for institutions that has MRes that allows dependents to go. One other thing that I want to add to this is that beyond thinking of what is required to complete an MRes successfully, ask yourself, what is the usefulness of MRes to me? Do you understand? And I think that is one question that many people don't ask themselves. What is the usefulness of an MRes to you? Because research programs is not for everybody. Let's just be realistic with ourselves. Research program from MRes, from MPhil to PhD is not for everybody. So what is the usefulness of that MRes to you? And remember, whether you are paying £10,000 or you are paying £15,000 or you are paying £20,000, if you convert that money to Nigerian naira, you go know how much that money go be. It is a lot of money, no matter what it is. So you must ensure that it counts, not only counting now, but counting in the future. So always ask yourself that question of, what is the usefulness to me on the long run? All right. So I will not, of course, we're not going to discourage anybody from doing MRes. If you want to do MRes, go for it. If there is space, congratulations. If it works for you, just know that it works for you. It has value. It's going to give you return on investment, and you know that you are going to do well on it, because if you don't do well on it, again, it's almost a waste of time and resources.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So like I said, for those in the audience, kindly drop your questions should you have any. In the spirit of honest conversation, Simi and Louis, I'd like for us to touch on post-study opportunities. So like I said, in the spirit of honest conversation, because the assumption will be, I can imagine that some persons would have the belief that and usually it comes up in the SOPs. When I'm done with my academic program, I'm going to be working in KPMG. I'm going to do this here. I'm going to do this here. I'm going to do this here. What have you seen? What have you experienced from third party, like from the stories or realities of other persons? And what truly do you see happen in recent time with folks who have studied after they are done?
Well,
Simi can go first, yeah.
Well, I have different angles to this, right? Personally, from friends, from UG, from PG, we try to be as quick as possible. For me as an undergraduate student, I think I don't think I missed out on an opportunity because it eventually worked out in my favor. But what I feel like I should have done differently was utilize internships more because I found out that, anyone who is on this call has the opportunity to do their undergrad, in the UK. I think it's an amazing opportunity because you can, as they say, start young, I guess, to unlock some of these opportunities. Because I found out that some other friends, maybe that might not have studied in my uni, that also did undergraduate degrees. Some of them have remained in the UK working in the likes of the big fours, your KPMGs and stuff. And what is peculiar and common to all of them is in their second year, they had all done internships with at least one of those organizations. And what that meant was, usually if you're really good, like academically, they already see that you're going to get a first class or a very high 2-1. A lot of them actually offer you job roles, like when you graduate, come work for us, right? Like off the bat. I know that I have a sibling that, that happened for, and he eventually stayed, in the UK and worked with big firms, right? But I guess for me, I thought I was going to do medicine, so maybe that's why my mind wasn't really going there. But that was one example. But even for older candidates, I know friends who have migrated to the UK under studies, right? Under studies, went with their families. I know a very good friend, like they're a couple. The wife is into, I believe, advertising, and the husband is in oil and gas, right? Two of them are doing very well. I think he's actually a husband that studied, and he studied in um Hull, the University of Hull. And I guess his experience in Nigeria actually helped him. And they are both doing well. Wife is also getting jobs. I feel those are the kind of people we might need to get on this sort of calls, right? To really go into the nitty-gritty of how, right? Because I relocated. Some people, maybe a lot of people on this call don't want to relocate. It's not a common, it's not the how do you call it, reverse japa. A lot of people don't want to do that. Do you understand? But I know people who are thriving abroad who have actually accessed this sort of opportunities. Do you understand? You just have to have the right headspace. Like this couple in question, I know that the mapped out stuff, they had worked, they had saved really well. I don't know if they liquidated their assets. I'm not aware that they did, right? But they went with a cost-effective option that worked with them at the time. They have 2 kids and they had their third while still in the UK. And now living in a house that they have purchased, not fully, but they have purchased. And this is all within 2 years so you need a standard plan. These are people who planned. Let me know if you need them. I might be able to wind them to come and give further advice, but I can't promise. But I feel like they have a really very strong, solid story to tell.
Louis, would you like to speak to that briefly?
Thank you, Simi, for sharing that. And I think it's also good to always listen to those inspiring stories of people, to show what is possible, because sometimes that's the kind of push that we need in our lives, to just know that things are possible, to be able to do them. I also have different angles to it. The first is that in terms of job, is that there are jobs. and there will always be jobs. That's what I think. In Nigeria, in Africa, in Europe, in the in the US or North America, there would always be jobs. What really the problem has been is that people don't usually rightly position themselves for those jobs. You understand? And then they claim that they don't have jobs. In terms of, you know, being lucrative or anything, people would, I remember when we were studying in the university in Nigeria, and they would always look down at those of us that were in the field of education, those of us who were studying education, were regarded as layabouts. We were regarded as like the dumbest people. We're like the waste. We were like the wastes that came from other faculties, you know, like if this person cannot get admission to, they will dump them. So we were really hated. We were really like really bullied. That's just the way to put it, you know. But some of us have had careers, you know, that even some of our law counterparts would only dream of. Do you understand? So, and it's not like it's not pride, and it's not like we've gotten there yet. It's just that that's just the way it is, you know, like where we are and the future that already lies in, and that's the thing about positioning yourself and really carving a niche for yourself. So I would say to people first is, again, tying to what Simi said, is um you know, have a solid plan, you know, like she said, have a very solid plan. Another thing is that I've said this before, don't limit yourself to a certain place. There are some people that they now we are talking to people who are studying abroad, those people who are going abroad to study now, right? There are some people that have studied in Germany, right? They're studying in Germany, but by virtue of them studying in Germany, they assume that every job or opportunity that they can get must be in Germany. That is a mistake that people make. You don't have to limit yourself to Germany. You can apply for jobs in New Zealand, in China, in America, in South Africa, in Nigeria. Don't be deceived to the point that don't allow yourself go abroad with the mentality that everything about this country is bad, because many people have that ideology and they go like this, like we say in Yoruba, you know, they would take the sand with them, like I'm never coming back there. Whereas some people's future is back here. Do you understand? So they allow themselves to continue in that trend. There are a few things that I want to say. Whether you are in the UK or whether you come back home, if you're going to be successful, you are going to be successful. There are just a few things that you need to do. That intentionality, that plan, that connection. Connection works everywhere. Remember when I talked about networking, when I said the essays that you write for the scholarship is, first one is leadership, the second one is networking. Connection is important. There are some jobs that we have gotten in our lives that you don't need CV for. There are some jobs that you have gotten. Some people might be on the call that has that experience. You've gotten a job, a good paying job, that they don't even have your CV till tomorrow. Do you understand? Just someone says, oh, I know this person is going to deliver well on that project. They bring you in, they don't even ask for portfolio, and you do it and you successfully do it, and then you get referrals from there. Connection is very important. So that's one of the reasons why you should not sit in a place and assume that favor will come knocking at your door. Don't think that, yes, we can go and pray to the high mountains and say, oh, wherever my name is mentioned, let favor locate me. Favor will only locate yourself when you have positioned yourself to be favored. Do you understand?
I think I can't hear Louis no more. Hello, Louis. Louis is dropping some hard notes here, and the network is beginning to play a fast one. Yeah. Okay, kindly confirm that you can still hear me, Simi. Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, Louis is back. Louis, you were dropping some hard notes there, and I really want you to be done with that thought.
Okay.
Favor will not come
Okay.
knocking at your door. That was where you stopped.
Sorry, favor will. Oh, I'd said some things. I said favor will not come knocking at your door. That we can spend a long time, praying that God favor me wherever my name is mentioned. Let favor locate me. The truth is that favor will not locate you if you have not positioned yourself to be favored. Do you understand? So people need to find out, what organizations can I join? What events can I attend? Who are the people in my sector? Let me tell you one thing that I do in my life. Like, I'm very intentional about my friends, like very intentional. And if I've seen someone and I know that I'm going to be friends with this person, it will only take me a few months. I will plot my way and be friends with that person. That's the thing. Do you get, like, I will know the kind of things they like. I will go to those kind of events, meet them there. That's the thing. Like, and that's how you build connections. There are some connections that you meet by it's involuntary, it's not planned. But there are some people that you will plan to meet. You plot your way to meeting them. You plot your way to being their friends. And there are some people that you've met, but you know that this person substance, you stay close to them. You might, and I'm not teaching you to build transactional relationships or anything. It's just knowing the value of connections and network. Okay, and don't think that you will stay in your house, you will not attend events, you will not go for networking opportunities, and you will know people. So now, those many jobs people have gotten through connections, so pay attention to that. Also, people see, what I've learned in this life is that whether village people are after you or they are not after you, if something will happen in your life, it will happen. If something will not happen in your life, it will not happen. That's just the way life is. Do you understand? Every one of us have been born one day. One day we will all live. So some people have scared their lives to not marketing themselves. They are doing things that can get them certain jobs. They are doing things that can put them in high pedestal. But because they are like, I don't want my uncle, auntie, sister to see that I can now do this thing. Oh, they will not talk about it. They will not post about it. And nobody will know about their competences. Do you understand? So we live in a world where the platforms are there. LinkedIn is there, Facebook, Instagram, where you can blow your own horns, but people will just be there. You see some people, they have 0 posts, but they are following 3,000 people and they have 130 followers. Do you understand? They don't post anything. They are following thousands of people just to go and watch people succeed. But they are not talking about their own success stories, whether they have one or not. Do you understand? Two things. I know I've been, so let me say one thing from my own experience. When I finished my dissertation at Sussex, I did, because we didn't have to do a front page, right? Like we do in Nigeria. But I did a front page and I put my dissertation topic and everything, and I posted it on LinkedIn. After I posted it on LinkedIn and I was out looking at the people that commented, checking profiles on people that I don't know, there was one person that was CEO of Expeed International. And I checked his profile. They do student internships. I said, I'm still in the UK. I'm still looking for internship. I was like, okay, maybe through their organization, I can get internships. Long story short, I built that relationship. I did internship with that organization itself, not even them getting me internship. I finished that internship. I came back to Nigeria. I worked with them for another 6 months as regional manager. And they were paying me in pounds. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So you have to learn to talk about yourself. Okay? The last thing that I would say, which is another challenge that I think has affected some people from getting certain jobs, is how they limit themselves, not only in terms of places and all that. You see some people, Simi was talking about internship. It's very powerful. There are some people that would apply for placement placement courses, undergraduate with placement, masters with placement. But because they are doing support work as part-time job while they are studying, you will see them still, they are studying engineering business management. They are doing placement in a support office or in a care home. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So that's where it starts from. Then we in this part of the world need to get to a point that we learn to dream big. There are many people that are in our classes that their eye is on UN. Their eye is on WHO. Their eye is on big companies, but we don't allow ourselves to dream big. So dreaming big, and this is where I would learn this one. There's a chorus of a song by Ryan Shoup and the Rubber Band, and it says, "When you dream big as the ocean blue. When you dream, your dream might come true, so dream big." The only reason why we ask people to dream big is because their dream might just come true. And when your dream comes true, you don't want to blame yourself for dreaming too small. So as you're going to go and study that course, you have to know what is the best place that I can work with this degree. Push yourself to that place. Join society, go for the annual conference, build relationship, tell them about yourself, especially when you are still studying your program and when you've just graduated in your honeymoon period. That's when you market yourself. Oh, I'm currently studying. I'm a master's student at the University of Sussex. I'm really fascinated by the research you've done, and they will respect you. See, they will respect you. Then let's just finish it at that. So push yourself to dream big, be intentional about places, and build good network. Those are the ways to get jobs. And don't screen yourself out of a job before you apply for it. If you found a job, you don't have the experience or anything, apply for it. They reject your application, ask them for feedback, build on that, and continue. Let's end on that one.
Thank you. That was such a passionate moment from you, Louis. Thank you so much. And to be honest, I know it's not just myself who has taken stuff off of that. Simi has to go now, and because she has something very dear to attend to. Simi, thank you for your time. That's thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Do you want to know if there is anybody that has a specific question for Simi?
For Simi, yeah, I was going to ask that if Simi would allow for us to do that. But Louis, you know certainly you're going to remain here for some time. Any specific question for Simi, please? Those of us in the audience, before she leaves. Anyone? You can raise your hand, you can unmute.
Okay, they said thank you, Simi. They are thanking you, Simi. We can let Simi go, don't worry.
Thank you. I'll leave it to my able friend.
Simi,
and he knows what I need to attend to. He's smiling in the corner. Louis knows exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will go and
Thank you.
do that. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Simi. Yeah, Louis, thank you. That was some passionate moments, please. I want to personally have received of what you said, because I need to hear that one again. Do we have anyone? Yeah, that was the bomb, Louis. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody with a question, please? I think not too many. Anyone? Should you have a question, you could just unmute yourself and ask, just in case you don't want to drop it in the chat.
A question, please. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm sorry it's a little bit noisy where I am. So, as a prospective student who has just arrived at the UK, what is expected of me? What should I do? You know, many people arrive in the UK not knowing what to do. They're supposed to submit themselves for criminal check, how do they go about opening an account, etc. I think guidance will be required on this. Thank you.
You're muted.
Yeah. So
Okay.
what to do on arrival, right? That was
Yeah.
the question. It's a number of things, you know, and we try to do this when we're doing pre-departure events for people. Is number one is, if you can, make sure you attend freshers or welcome week or weekend. It's a good time to already form to already meet people, to understand the system, because there would be lots of people there and lots of activities, lots of information being shared, and information is very powerful. You understand? So I think the first thing is try to go early, ensure that you have all the document that you have to carry with you. Carry your documents and valuables with you in your hand luggage. Check in things that you cannot carry, perfumes, food items, all those kind of things. Check them in. You know, be careful, you know, how you pack your bags as well, so that you don't get you don't carry something and then they throw it away, and then you're going to wherever you're going already sad because they taking your best Gary that they ordered from Ijebu. You understand? And apart from that, if you're going to ever help anybody, I don't actually advise anybody to help anybody carry anything. But if you're going to ever do it, make sure you open everything you see it. But please, if you can avoid it, please avoid it. Don't help anybody carry anything when you're traveling, to avoid stories that touch. Once you've gotten there, is you need to open a bank account. You need to familiarize yourself with systems on your campus. There are institutions like mine that has what we call the International Student Support Office. That office is one of the most important offices that I think international students don't utilize. They do a lot of things in terms of helping you get discounts. For example, in the UK, they will help you with rail cards that can give you up to 30% discount on rail tickets that you buy. If you want to invite anybody to come and visit you, you can get invitation letters from the university from there. If you want to travel to other countries, and I'll give an example of when you are studying in the UK and you want to go to a country like America, it's much easier there while you're studying to apply for a US visa, and you can get it quickly. You can get introduction letters from the International Student Office. There are many offices that you should make friends with. Student Life Center, for example, where you can learn about academic skills. How can you beef your academic research skills up? Academic research or academic skills office. Welfare, counseling units. These are units, if you need support, go for it. What I usually tell people is that in universities that, you know, that pay attention to a lot of international student recruitment, they usually have a way of responding to queries and supporting international students. So if you have anything, you have any question, you need any assistance, ask. Again, you have spent so much money. You see, some of this money that you have paid is what they are using to maintain those centers. Go and use it. You understand? If another one is careers and employability office, there are some people that they will spend 1 year in school. They will not engage with careers and employability office at all. They will not go for a seminar. They will not do one-to-one bespoke session. They won't go for fairs. They won't do anything. Okay, so it's very important to utilize those things, and it comes from, you know, how some of us grew up. You know, some people are homebodies that, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
so some people are homebodies. Some people also have gone to universities in Nigeria that they only lived a triangular system, class to church to their houses. But now, when you're abroad, whether you've grown up like that or not, you need to expand yourself. You need to go for seminars. I audited courses that were not even in my course. I audited courses. I did French. and my university paid for it. I was supposed to pay for it, but I told them that I'm from Nigeria. I got the funding for it, about 300 and something pounds at that time. I did it for free. I joined the social impact prize. I did a competition. I got into the incubation program. I got money to start up my business. I talk about me as CEO Advantage. My first seed fund was from when I was studying at Sussex, because I joined the competition. So you need to really open yourself to all these opportunity. Don't think that by spending all the time in the class or at home, because the truth is that when you go home, you see that time that you think you don't have, you will spend it gisting and talking, use it for so many things. So I think opening yourself to opportunities and all of that are things that you should do. Open a bank account. Also, you need to find your tribe, and it's very important to find your tribe as quickly as possible. We've talked about it earlier, when we're talking about connections. Find your tribe, because when you find your tribe, it can make things easy. Your tribe you can be from church, it can be from your class, it can be from anywhere, but find your tribe so that it's easier for you to navigate your way through. What else? Don't travel with what you don't need. There are some people that they want to travel to the UK. They will now go to Yaba and go and buy all the winter jacket that is in Yaba, and it will now fill their bags. All you need is probably one for when you are traveling and your first few days there. You can easily get when you are there. And the one you get in Yaba might not even be useful by the time you get there. You understand? Because you think is helping you with the cold here. Meanwhile, you now see Babala cold in Canada. You know that the one that you have bought is useless. Do you understand? So I think those are some of the things. Is there anything else? Don't travel with so much money as cash with you, because you don't want immigration to stop you for carrying so much cash. Don't overwork yourself when you are studying, because you are first a student before you are a part-time worker. Don't overwork yourself. I usually advise people in their first year not to work. First year undergrad, don't work. You can maybe summer jobs or in summer internship, you can do it. But first year, or at least first term, don't work. When you are now in second term, or in fact throughout your undergrad, or maybe that's an advice maybe even I might not take. But let's say second term, second year, do like 12 hours out of your 20 hours. Then your final year, you can do 20 hours. Masters, you can do 20 hours, because you can navigate your way well. You understand? But try to be very careful with that. Then don't allow yourself to be a mogul when you are abroad. There are some people that, have gone abroad with the mentality that everything is perfect where they are going to, and there are no scammers. There are scammers everywhere in the world. There are scammers that will scam you and will still wave you goodbye on top of it. Like, you can go to the UK and pay for houses that doesn't exist. You can go to the US and have people pay you money, and they would use your card for transactions, and your money is gone. So you have to wise up, no matter what level you are, whether you're in year 1 or year 3, or you're doing masters or PhD, you need to wise up. You understand? So you have to go with street smartness. You have to be very street smart as you're going. You understand? There was one last thing I wanted to say. I've forgotten. If I remember, I'll say it. But yeah, I think that those are some of the things I can remember. Oh, there's somebody said something. Yes, thank you. This person read my mind. Being open-minded, embrace cultural differences, and don't lock yourself with other people. That is very true. I used to talk about this a lot. There are some people that, they grew up being naturally tribalistic, naturally racist, and naturally evil. But because they are in a country where they don't get to exhibit that, they will not be able to show it. It is when they're now abroad that you now see it. There are some people that, they casually say, I don't like those people. They used to smell. I don't know if you've heard that before. That is a racist slur, and it's really bad. And there are some people that say, I can't talk to that person, or I don't like the way this person behaves. Like, is a bad character when you talk down on people and you assume, or you put yourself above other people based on your affiliation, on your belief system, on your background. There are some people that thinks that because by virtue of their religion, their background, their whatever, that they are better and superior than other people, they deny themselves the opportunity to learn and to grow. They keep a close mind because of that assumption, and they don't grow in that process. My first class in my master's abroad, my lecturer came to the class and said, "Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Whatever. We did introductions and everything." He said, "Okay, so we're going to start this class, and I'm going to tell you one thing that is very important. Everything you know is wrong." That was how she started that class. She said, "Everything you know is wrong." Me, in my mind, I'm like, do you know me? Do you know who I am? I have many years working in NGO work. I know a lot of things. Is it SDG? SDG 1? Is this SDG 4? Is this? It is that course that I had see. That same course, because I did not allow myself to know that I was wrong. Do you understand? So, and some people, because they are used to judging people, they meet people from other culture, they judge them based on that. You're going to be going to a country where you see people kissing on the streets, people kissing in the church. You're going to see man and man walking hand in hand. You're going to see girl and girl getting married. Do you understand? You need to allow yourself to be open-minded. That is not the only thing. You're going to be in a class, and your class governor or whatever might be someone in hijab. You can't assume that they don't know better. You can't assume that you're better off. So allow yourself to be open-minded. Allow yourself to learn from other people. Allow yourself to share the knowledge you have with other people. That is how you grow yourself. Last thing I want to say is, don't forget the son of whom and the daughter of whom you are. Some of us, because we try so hard to be white or to be Caucasian or to be like the people from that place, we find ourselves in limbo. You don't want to associate with your Nigerian fellas and your African brothers and sisters. You're trying so hard to only be in an all-white group. But the truth is that you're not white. And now you've left your people. You are now in limbo. You are just somewhere in the middle. If they ask you what you're doing and how you're doing, you don't know. Have an identity. Go with an identity. Keep that identity. That identity, of course, things can change, because as you learn from other people, you begin to adjust and you begin to grow and all of that. You allow yourself to learn, to relearn, and to unlearn and relearn, right? And then you now see some adjustment in how you're behaving. But you have to keep your identity right throughout that period. That's where the respect comes from. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Louis. Those points came in just right on time and on point. So yeah, 8 minutes more. Thank you for that, timekeeper, Tolu Abori. Just to be sure there is no other question, would there be any other person interested in dropping a question? Let me check the chat again. Nobody. Thank you so much, Louis and Simisola in absentia. It's honestly been an amazing time. And I believe so much that everyone who have come, but some persons came in and went off the call. I know that it's been a resourceful time. And thank you so much for this time you've given to us. It's not in any way taken for granted, knowing that you're pretty much engaged where you are at the moment. Would there be any other final thing you'd love to say, Louis, just to be sure I'm not also blocking you out?
No, I was smiling because I saw it's a comment and someone was asking if I was a copper in Anglican. Yeah, so I was, Shogbo, yes, I definitely was. That was many years ago,
Oh,
whoever that person is.
interesting.
That was like how many years? 14 years ago now.
Wow.
Anyway, so what I want to say, final words, is that just taking it from that point of identity is people assume that I'm this smart because I went to study abroad, or I speak well because I went to study abroad. The truth is no. Is that no? I've always been a very smart person, and I acknowledge that about myself. I've always been a very well-spoken person. Maybe I got a bit better or not, I don't know. When I went abroad, I don't know. But the reason why I'm saying that is that there is a you before you go abroad, and there's a you while you're studying abroad. There's a you after you've studied abroad. You need to find the golden thread between that personalities. There has to be something that you're known for. That identity has to be kept on strong. It might be something relating to your culture. It might be something relating to your religion. It might be something relating to whatever, your competencies, your brilliance, or whatever. What I want to really add to that is that whether you're going abroad now or you're going in the future, whether you're staying abroad or you're going to go come back here, allow yourself to grow your capacity beyond even yourself. Because I say something that we've been blessed to be a blessing unto others. I usually would say that whatever knowledge I have, whatever connection or whatever that I have, is not only for me, it's for my community, for my country, it's for my continent, it's for the world. Okay, there's a lot of things that are happening in the world. And some of us on this call has the capacity, whether we have it now or we have it in the future, to make quality change happen. Sometimes it is the decision to study abroad that takes us closer to those things. But if we don't acknowledge the capacity, the responsibility that we have in the world, we would not be able to grow ourselves to that point where our impact is valuable and needed. What I would say in conclusion is find your voice, carve a niche for yourself, dream big, and work hard, and always believe in yourself. No matter what happened, no matter if you had a distinction or not, if you had a merit or not, if you had to repeat a semester, if you had to do a course again, whatever happens, believe in yourself and know that it's part of the process that makes you that refined, excellent person that people would look up to and respect. All right. So, and decision to study abroad is a very important one. If you've made it or you're about to make it, make sure that on the long run, it is worthwhile, it gives you the results you want, and is impactful to you and to your community. I wish you all the best, everybody. All the best with everything.
Thank you so much, Louis. I know I've said thank you, sort of like on repeat already, but I'm not forgetting where I'm from, isn't it? So it's honestly been an awesome 2 hours, or closely 2 hours. We've had it's 3 minutes to 8 p.m. and it will be 2 hours on the hour of 8. I want to thank everyone that joined in on this call. Even though not too many persons spoke, I know, or chatted, I want to believe that you're leaving this call with some resourceful word. You're leaving a better person, or at best you're nudged further at what you might be up and about. Thanks to Simi, thanks to Louis, and thanks to everyone who has made this entire call a success. To the technical team behind the scene who aided us this far, I really want to say thank you. We look forward to having this engagement some other time, and we're very sure to reach out when necessary. Some of us got this invite late. We honestly apologize for that. And thank you, Louis, once again for bringing your best self to this call. Thank you. So at this, you want to say something? So let me let it. Oh, thank you. Okay, so at this point, we'll just draw the curtain and it's a wrap here. Thank you, everyone. Do have a restful evening. and a restful weekend at the same time. Cheers. Yeah, cheers, people.